Lesson 10. Mind endows you with that sublime power not only to think and to know, but what is still more valuable, to be conscious of through reason. You are conscious of your own existence and of all that is around you through the mental part of your being. Thus, mind is the foundation of your active life on the physical plane, as well as the adjusting medium which determines your relations to the world in which you move. Therefore, in order to make mind serve you to the best advantage, it is first necessary to have a clear understanding of its nature, functions, and method of expression through your body. Mind is not produced from within the individual. On the contrary, the individual is produced by mind. You are born simply with the faculty to think, that is, to transmit mind currents. Just as a lens has the faculty to transmit sunlight, only mind, the medium through which soul manifests itself, creates its own lens for its expression on a lower plane, and that lens is your physical body. The actual mental self behind that physical expression is but a single ray from one common independent source, a basic power which is one of the aspects of universal life energy and which is called universal intelligence, or infinite mind. This infinite intelligence contains all knowledge, all activities, all possibilities pertaining to mind, harmoniously blended into one, just as all the colors of the spectrum are blended into the one white light of the sun. Like a central mental sun, also it sends forth an infinite number of individual rays, or minds, each of which partakes of all the qualities of its source. And these individual rays, passing through us into expression on the plane of our mental existence, are what we know as our human minds. As universal intelligence has for its fundamental principle complete unity, its expression in cosmic consciousness is based on complete unity also. Our human minds, proceeding from universal intelligence, originally possessed that individual unity. But now, in our present state of consciousness, where everything appears to us in a threefold aspect, the single and differentiated ray of our mind also enters our perception split into three distinct parts, known to us respectively as superconsciousness, consciousness or self-consciousness, and subconsciousness. Superconsciousness, the unbroken ray connecting us with universal intelligence, has in the brain, like every mental quality, a particular organ through which it expresses itself. This organ, the physical counterpart of superconsciousness, is located near the base of the brain and is called the pineal gland. Messages received through the pineal gland are of a rare and perfect nature. They are known as inspiration and are conveyed directly to our consciousness without having to go through the mechanical process of reasoning. If we could register all these inspirational messages consciously, our unity with universal intelligence would be re-established, and we could then dispense entirely with reasoning. We would be omniscient. Yet because of the disturbed condition, or coarseness, of the second part of our mental trinity, we are unable to do this. Self-consciousness, the second of our three mental conditions, is the faculty we possess of being conscious of our own existence. It is to us what the electric light bulb is to an electrical circuit, the point where the invisible currents poured into it from our other mental states glow into visible being, illumining for us the world in which we live. Because of it we are able to say, I am conscious of myself, therefore I know that I am. Thus it is the sayet of our most precious and brilliant mental quality, the one which enables us not only to reason logically, but to be also aware of that process of reasoning, and which we call the reason, or rational mind. Also, in self-consciousness resides the power by which we bring that light of reason into clear focus and hold it steadily to the purpose toward which it tends. This power we term the will, and it, together with the rational mind which it sustains and directs, is one of our most valuable mental assets. Self-consciousness has also in the brain its own physical organ for expression, comparable to the filament in the light mentioned above. This organ, called the pituitary body, or telepathic apparatus, is located at the front of the brain, and its function is to send out and receive mental vibrations in the form commonly called thoughts. It is what enables us to communicate telepathically with our fellow beings, and also very frequently to sense impending conditions before they actually enter rational perception. Subconsciousness, the third member of our triune mental nature, is the vast mental field where all thoughts, good and evil, are planted and flourish side by side until they ripen to the day of mental harvest, which is our consciousness of their actual existence. All acquired knowledge, all vagaries of thought or fancy, all things that once enter even remotely into our experience, sink into the fertile ground of this great farm of our mind, there to grow intermingled, like the wheat and the tares, till the time when they can be assorted and disposed of according to their natures. Upon the care with which this assorting is done depends primarily the quality of the crop, or record of the conscious, active life of accomplishment and endeavor of each of us. The physical organ of subconsciousness is the back part of our brain and the solar plexus, sometimes referred to as the abdominal brain. The two are directly connected through the spinal cord, and they communicate with our conscious self by the process called memory. As all impressions are stored in the subconsciousness, it becomes in a way a hall of records from which almost any desired information can be obtained through the proper exercise of this memory process. Mind as a whole, therefore, while it is intimately connected with the brain, is not actually in it. Your brain is but the physical outgrowth, the embodiment in material flesh, of the activities of your mind. Yet your mind itself is an aspect of that highest part of your triune nature, called the soul. Each quality of the soul, acting through mind, constructs its own physical organ through which to find expression on the physical plane. All those organs together constitute the body, or outlined activities of the entire soul. The brain, that infinitely complex and delicate instrument, with its various lobes and centers, its thousands of convolutions and millions of cells, is the wonderful unit which your mind has built among that assortment of specialized units for the expression of its own activities alone. Yet ideas, originating first in mind, require a definite working power to carry them into expression through this material brain. Such power universal life energy supplies in the purely physical form of the life force of your body. That life force, flowing from its storage place in the solar plexus, through the spinal cord to the brain, causes it to function much as steam or electricity causes an engine to function. Only in the brain each center is like a tiny separate engine, to which the driving power must be distributed in proportion to its need or capacity to use it. There is another difference, also. The life current, besides driving the engine, in addition acts as the vehicle which carries to that engine what is to pass through it. Ideas which mind wishes to deliver to our consciousness are impressed, as it were, into the vibratory current of life force, and are then borne by it into conscious expression through the various centers best adapted for giving passage to them. Which centers these are is determined by the rate of vibration peculiar to each different idea. Just as the vibrations of a single note on a musical instrument may be caught up and transmitted by any material object that happens to be in tune with it, so every individual idea arouses a sympathetic response from the proper channel for its transmission in the brain. Once ideas are thus attracted to their respective brain centers, they are there transformed into the corresponding mental currents and sent in that new form through the brain nerves to the common focal point from which eventually they must all emerge. This focal point, the organ of our self-consciousness, is called the pituitary body or telepathic apparatus, and is situated in the front part of the brain, back of the root of the nose, securely encased in a bony socket of its own. a skull within a skull. The pituitary body is at once one of the most fascinating, important, and perhaps least known units of our physical equipment. It is one of the ductless glands mentioned in the previous lesson, and few if any of our organs are so carefully fortified against accident or injury. There is good reason for this, as any injury to it means certain death. Some of its functions, which are many and varied, were known thousands of years ago to the ancients, who called it the third eye, the eye of Siva, mind, or the bump of wisdom. That knowledge, practically lost in the passage of centuries, has only lately been rediscovered by science, and is now brought forward as the most recent and valuable contribution to the comparatively new science of mind. The pituitary body consists of two lobes, an anterior or frontal lobe and a posterior or back lobe. Each of these lobes has its own special field of activity with respect to your physical body, as well as its cooperative work on the mental plane. In its physical department, the anterior lobe, for instance, small as it is, governs the bony growth of the body, while the larger posterior lobe determines how finely organized that body may be. Those who have the anterior lobe better developed are generally very robust and hearty, while those who have the posterior lobe better developed are of a more delicate and sensitive nature, both physically and mentally. Another physical activity of the pituitary body is to condense the pure vibratory life current flowing into it from the spinal cord into a fluid secretion which it sends directly into the bloodstream. This fluid, circulating through the brain, stimulates and regulates its functioning. Because of this, the pituitary body is often called the key of intelligence, as its proper activity determines the ability of the brain to do mental work. Mentally, the function of the pituitary body is to receive and project mental vibrations, commonly called thoughts. It is the telepathic apparatus through which the mental vibrations sent to it from the brain centers pass out of your body. That is, it exactly repeats, on a lower octave which is within the scope of our understanding, the quick theme of ideas which is being continually improvised on the loftier scale of mind. The operation of the pituitary body in this double role as the open door through which all mental vibrations from within pass out, and all mental vibrations from outside come in, makes every human being the most wonderful mental radio that can be conceived. There is no mechanical device, even in this era of electrical marvels, that remotely compares with your own natural apparatus. For there is no mechanical device that can ever approach the power, sensitiveness, and diversity of the living human radio. Yet in order to bring out that potential effectiveness within, the individual must conform to certain natural laws which govern mental vibrations, like all others. As explained previously, the mental current, conveyed through the brain nerves to the pituitary body, is projected from it into space as mental vibrations, or thoughts. These thought vibrations, proceeding in obedience to distinct physical laws, spread outward from their source in all directions, exactly like light, sound, heat, or any other vibrations. Therefore, naturally, the further they go, the weaker they become, losing power in direct ratio to the distance they have to travel. This loss of power by ordinary thought vibrations is why they are so difficult to transmit at long range. When they reach their objective, the telepathic apparatus of the one who is to receive them, they are too feeble and diffused to make a perceptible impression. Yet by taking intelligent advantage of those same physical laws which govern all vibrations, this difficulty can be overcome. Thought vibrations can be concentrated into a single ray and directed at will, just as light or sound vibrations can be concentrated and focused. For instance, in order to project light vibrations at a distance, all that is necessary is to place behind the light a reflector to throw all the rays forward, and in front of it a lens to gather those reflected rays together. Thus all the power of the light will be concentrated at one point and can be turned in any direction desired. Precisely the same method is to be used to direct mental vibrations, with the sole difference that, instead of mechanical device, the physical apparatus, or mental radio of the individual, is to be employed in the capacity of reflector and lens. Through willpower, the function of the pituitary body, or telepathic apparatus, can be modified and emphasized as follows. Its back lobe can be made to act as a reflector for the projected thought vibrations, and the front lobe can be made to serve as a lens which will concentrate in one point the vibrations already collected and directed through it by that reflector. In this way, the sum of power and efficiency can be obtained from a thought, not by abusing the uses of telepathic apparatus, but by accentuating the purpose for which its structural design adapts it. The exercise of the will to focus thought vibrations in this manner is called concentration. Obviously, those who have learned how to perform that concentration have acquired a power which amounts to internal mastery, for they can then consciously reinforce and direct their thought in a way that will make it efficient to the highest degree. Yet in order to attain that desirable result, it is necessary to develop one other faculty without which successful concentration is impossible, namely, attention. Attention is the ability to take accurate mental note of whatever comes within range of your perception. It means to have the mind arrested and drawn by immediate interest to anything it may contact, either directly or through the medium of the senses. The more attentive you can be in general to the world about you, the more alert you are to perceive and appraise things exactly, while the more attentive you can be to your own present concern in particular, the more power you are able to pour into that to the exclusion of all else. When the lines of our attention are dimmed and blurred, every irrelevant thing constitutes a leak which drains away a certain amount of the energy that ought to go into the matter in hand. But when those lines are sharp and cleanly cut, everything promptly stands out in clear relief. Such attention, applied to one thing, focuses all our energies on that thing instead of letting it seep away in 1,000 different and unrelated directions. Thus, attention is really the factor which determines how much power we are able to put into the projected thought. Our will, through which we adjust our telepathic apparatus, works effectively only in proportion as interest holds our attention to what we wish to do. It is geared to attention, so to say, and will enable us to produce a strong, concentrated ray of mental vibrations only as our attention itself is strong and concentrated. Therefore, each step in that procession leading up to efficient mental radio is dependent on its predecessor, and a flaw in one will continue through all the rest until it emerges in the final result. So in order to enable you to control your thought vibrations completely, the exercises for this lesson will be for the development of the faculties which will give you that control, and which are called concentration and attention. Exercises. The exercises you learned in part 1 of this course have been designed to serve as the foundation for other exercises of a more specialized nature. Therefore, continue as before with the star exercise morning and evening, relaxation, silence, and the mental contact with universal life energy. To these you will add this week 2 new exercises. The first of the mental group, called attention and concentration. Attention is developed by arousing and putting in order all your perceptive faculties. Everything about you holds its message, has a special significance with relation to other things or to yourself. In the measure that you are alert to fathom that message, you will take an interest in the thing. And the more interest you take, the more attentive you will be. Try always to get a quick but complete understanding of whatever you may encounter through any of your senses. Determine in a few moments, if possible, its form, size, color, and general appearance. And then, penetrating deeper, try to discover what it stands for. The more you practice this, the more sensitive you will become to the deeper meanings of things that before were meaningless. You will perceive and take advantage of opportunities which present themselves in your life, because you will be able to see just where otherwise insignificant events are leading. Your mind will be stimulated and clarified, your mental vision sharpened. You will find yourself thinking directly and truly, picking out your objective without hesitation or loss of time, and striking for it confidently. And the reason will be that, by developing attention, you have made possible the realization of that other priceless quality, the key to all mental power: concentration. Concentration demands, in the beginning, at least, complete solitude for its proper performance. Choose a time and place where for 10 or 15 minutes you can remain absolutely undisturbed. There should be no distracting circumstances. The room should be quiet, comfortable, and in a subdued light. Having established yourself in such favorable conditions, choose a mental concept of some material object of a pleasant nature, for instance, a flower, and concentrate your thoughts on it. You will notice that your mind continually wanders away from that concept of a flower, turning in almost any direction except the one you have set for it. By an effort of willpower, you can bring it back time after time, until finally it will stay fixed where you want it. After you have achieved this much, try to summon up in your mind a strong, clear picture of that flower. Make it so vivid that it becomes real to you, affecting even your sensory nerves with an imagined fragrance. Then it becomes an actuality to you, and when you have done this, you can say that you have done good concentration work. In choosing some concept for concentration practice, select one of a concrete object instead of an abstract one, because it is much easier to concentrate on a thing which is perceptible to the other senses as well as to mind. Also choose a different object each time, in order that you may develop the mental plasticity in keeping with mental strength. Concentration is one of the most difficult and important of all mental exercises, because it requires coordinated energy, willpower, and perseverance in order to produce effective results. Those three qualities are seldom found properly balanced in one individual. But as universal life energy is the fundamental power back of them, you can bring them into the balanced relation necessary by contacting and using that harmonizing force. Once they are coordinated and strengthened, concentration becomes an easy task which will no longer need complete privacy and special circumstances for its performance. You can then dominate your surroundings instead of being influenced by them, and can focus your thoughts instantaneously at will, under all conditions. Questions and answers to Lesson 10. 1. What and where is universal mind? Universal mind is an intelligent, conscious, creative and eternal power, one of the aspects of universal life energy, and is all-pervading. 2. What is cosmic consciousness? Cosmic consciousness is the self-consciousness of universal mind itself. 3. What is the individual mind? The individual mind is a single one of the countless rays or projections proceeding from universal mind. 4. How does the single individual mind express itself? The single individual mind expresses itself in three distinct aspects into which it is broken by our present triune state of consciousness, and which are called superconsciousness, self-consciousness, and subconsciousness. 5. What is superconsciousness? Superconsciousness is our higher mental self, the undifferentiated individual ray proceeding from universal mind and reaching our conscious self through intuition. 6. What is self-consciousness? Self-consciousness is that aspect of our individual mind through which we perceive, discriminate and live consciously, and which is the sayat of our reason and will. 7. What is subconsciousness? Subconsciousness is the undiscriminating, retentive and generative part of our mind, in which all impressions are stored and which communicates with self-consciousness through memory. 8. What are the physical organs respectively through which these three aspects of mind express themselves? The physical organs respectively through which these three aspects of our mind express themselves are: 1. Superconsciousness, the pineal gland. 2. Self-consciousness, the pituitary body. 3. Subconsciousness, the back part of the brain and the solar plexus. 9. Where do ideas originate and how are they conveyed into our consciousness? Ideas originate in mind and are conveyed into our consciousness through the brain centers best attuned to their rates of vibration. 10. What is thought? Thought is 1. Ordinary, mental vibrations projected into space through the pituitary body, but not consciously controlled or directed. 2. Concentrated, ordinary thought vibrations focused and directed by a conscious effort of will. 11. What is attention? Attention is sustained alertness and sensibility to all impressions, induced in our conscious self by interest. 12. What is mental concentration? Mental concentration is modifying the action of the pituitary body by willpower so that the ordinary thought vibrations passing through it are gathered together and focused into one point.